Exploring theology, doctrine, and all of the fascinating subjects in between, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, Dead Men Walking starts
now.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dead Men Walking. I'm your host, Greg.
And I'm Jason.
I was going to say to my right, but you are now to my left now.
All right, yeah.
You're messing me up.
Yeah.
Because we have someone else.
Sit on the
We have
love
someone
seat.
else in air quotes studio with us.
Happy to
Welcome.
be here.
Pastor Rick Flood.
It's good to be here.
What's going on, brother?
Hey, not much, man.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
I was trying to think of like a tagline that we could open the show with now.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like where the points are made up, but the truth still matters, or I don't
Okay.
know, something like that.
All right.
Is that any good or no? That
sure.
means no. That means no. Gosh.
The hesitation said it all.
Gosh.
Yes.
I know you too well, Jason. You can't hide your lies from me.
I don't lie.
That was like
Yeah.
a 2-second pause,
Yeah,
though. It was
I know.
quick. It was-
That's
I
the
was
same pause
thinking
my
through
wife
it.
does.
I got you.
She doesn't want to answer truthfully.
You want to do what?
Are these jeans too tight,
I
honey?
know.
These skinny
I know.
jeans?
Yeah. I want to start a podcast.
Yeah, right. How much is that going to cost?
I
That's
know.
the next question.
Not much.
Right.
Yeah.
No. If you never see the money,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like it costs nothing.
Exactly.
Just kidding, honey. If you're listening. So
You're in trouble.
Wow, we're already in trouble in
We're
the first
gonna
2.5 minutes. So
edit that.
yeah, welcome to another episode of Dead Men Walking. We are actually doing our first episode on a subject that was requested by a listener. So we had a listener, shout out to Taylor. She reached out to me on Instagram and she said, "Hey, would you guys like just talk about media influence in music, meaning worship music, secular music, and kind of what worship and praise music is." And I've led worship before, and I know you have,
I
Jason.
played guitar, yes.
You played guitar and bass.
Bass,
and
drums.
we've got Rick here, who is a worship leader and plays music. And I went, man, this would be a good subject for us three to just,
Yeah.
sit around and talk about. I also love hanging out with musicians. It's kind of like that little club you're in. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of, you hear stand-up comics talking about being in their stand-up comic club. Well, with
Yeah.
musicians, it's kind of the same way. There's certain jokes and certain things. And, we just have a...
Do you guys know what my favorite chord is?
Oh, is it G-sus?
Yes, it is. Yay! We like dad jokes around here, bro.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Did you two just become best friends?
we did.
We should have shared the love
No,
seat.
we should have shared that. Dang it.
We should have gone for it.
Do you like avocados? Or wait, it's guacamole. That's right.
It was funny.
Step
A few
Brothers.
episodes ago, I said something like, keyboardists never get any respect. And he just flatly goes, yeah, as they should. They shouldn't get any.
Yeah, they
and we
shouldn't.
lost it. It was like 10 minutes of laughing because it's so true. You know what I mean?
Oh man, no, the keyboard player at Compelled, man, he gets rocking.
Is it probably it's John?
Oh
John,
man,
back
he's
there.
like he's rocking
Bopping,
when he's
yeah.
over there.
Yeah,
man.
between
I
him
love
and
it.
an old Murph dog back there grooving.
Yeah, and then he's
when
man.
we
he's
sing a
getting
hallelujah,
going.
man.
Oh yeah, man.
It's
he
back
does.
there. Murphy, if he catches eyes with you during
Yeah.
the service,
Oh,
it's
he'll
like
smile at you.
Yeah,
Oh
you know
yeah, man.
you have no idea what's going to happen.
It's like the sun. You glance at it, look away, Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so, I just wanted to sit down and we got about an hour and talk a little bit about worship music and stuff like that. But Rick, why don't you give us a little bio for the listeners? Just give us a little background,
Sure.
how you came to the Lord, maybe what you've been doing for the last few years. I know we said you're a worship leader, but let them hear a little bit about you.
Sure. So, rough upbringing. We'll just skip all that, and it was bad. But luckily, I had an aunt and uncle that really reached out to me, so invited me to come up and live with them. That's how I grew up in Florida, so this is how I ended up here in Michigan. And so they were kind of my uncle was a pastor, so obviously with coming to live with them, had to go to church and really made a difference. That's actually where I met Pastor Nate. He was a youth pastor at the church where my uncle was the pastor. So that's the connection there. Got saved, didn't really know what to do. This is the Cliff Notes, ended up going to Bible college for a semester.
Which Bible?
North
college?
Central Bible College,
Okay, okay.
in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
And to be honest, school was not my jam, and
Yeah.
so it wasn't
And
going
it's
good.
No ones, I don't think.
Yeah, it wasn't going good. I was studying all the time and still flunking out, and so it was a bummer.
Right.
And so Nate called me during the summer, or right before the summer, and said, "Hey, why don't you come intern with me?" He had just planted, it was Bedford Christian Community then,
Sure.
20 something years ago. And so interned and have never left. So did some correspondence, things like that for credentialing. So started as youth pastor then, and did that for 10 years. And then after about 10 years, then we had a transition for worship ministry. He invited me to jump in on that. I literally knew like 3 songs. It was amazing. I learned the guitar. We went on a trip to Germany on a missions trip, and so I learned "Lord, I Lift Your Name on High" classic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We played that. We only went to senior homes in Germany, so we played "Lord, I Lift Your High" in every
For a half
senior
hour.
home in Berlin. Just over and over again.
On loop.
Over and over. And they had no idea what we were saying. You know what I mean? We're just
Right.
singing syllables to them. You know, and
Yeah.
Right.
so that was my breakthrough moment, man. It
Oh,
was
they-
pretty
man,
cool.
They
you know?
probably loved it.
I
That's
did.
great,
Well, you
yeah.
know, I signed a few autographs.
Yeah, there
I'm not,
you go.
I'm not
There-
gonna lie. So it was
You're going to
cool.
cut your teeth in worship music, dude, in front of Germans who can't understand it, man.
Right?
It's the
Jeez.
best, you know.
Wow.
My favorite is when they would just fall asleep, and you'd be like,
Yeah.
I guess we'll do it again. I don't know. So
Oh, that
That's
song,
awesome.
man. Everyone in my youth group knew that song, man. You
Yeah.
learned that
Man.
first thing on the guitar.
Yeah.
I knew
know?
that one, and then that's
Yeah,
it.
you
Yeah.
know?
And then I also learned "Shout to the Lord" was also in the mix.
Oh, those go back to back.
So is that in E as well? Like, could you just go E,
Oh,
so-
B, A? Like,
So I went for G. I was in
Oh,
G
you
because they were
went-
the easiest.
Easiest, yeah.
G sus was
yeah,
there.
oh,
So
there
it
you
was
go.
like,
See?
you know,
you had the anointing
so,
right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, yeah. It was powerful. It was some powerful moments.
That's
so
awesome.
I could
Wow.
never quite get that key change and shout to the Lord. That always went bad. You know.
Yeah.
Such a moment. I blew it every time. So
So what about when did you start playing music? Like, how did that start? As a
So-
kid or later in life or what?
no, I've been playing music for probably about 12 years, honestly. So
Okay.
it was in student ministry. I just had to, as a youth pastor, like a guitar, I'm like, I got to learn how to do
Yeah.
that for
Right.
campfires and
Right.
stuff, camping trips. And so just picked it up and started, kind of messing around with it. And
No
then
way.
got kind of
awesome.
pushed into, it was good because you know how like I was that classic, like, yeah, I'll learn the guitar. And then you
Yeah.
learn a few chords, you kind of put it down.
Sure.
And so me then learning a few more songs and then being asked to lead worship in front of
Yeah.
people, I was like, I probably got to learn what I'm doing here, So
That's a big step.
Yeah.
yeah, it was intimidating.
And
It
then
was, yeah.
leading a whole band.
Yeah, I had no
mean,
idea what I was doing. No idea. Still could be argued that I don't, honestly.
No,
I'm like,
man. No, it's
Good
pretty,
job,
it's pretty
guys,
hit-
you know?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty rocking in there, man.
The first time I ever got asked to do that, like in front of, I think it was in front of the very first time I ever played on a worship team, I was 12 and I played the drums and I had one lesson. So I'd been playing on my own
Yeah.
and then took one lesson. And then the pastor that gave me one lesson was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm busy, whatever. And that was strange. But the first time I ever asked to play piano, I felt like a total fraud because I go, you guys just know I play chords, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I had, when I was younger, I'd memorized like classical piano, some Bach movements, saber dance for my recital. Like these were intricate 50-page
Right.
pieces that I would practice for 6 months and then play them one time. And I was like, I'm not good enough to lead worship. And then I realized, we all just play chords.
That's all it is.
basically.
right.
Yeah.
I'm still playing the same way I did when I was
it,
14, Obviously, that's a simplification a little bit. But it was really strange to me when someone asked me to do that. And even from a young age, I knew it was sacred.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I grew up, and we've talked about it on the podcast before, I grew up from a young age until about 14 in a pretty legalistic background. So I actually had youth pastors sit me down and say, hey, we heard you're playing You Put That Love in My Heart by Keith Green, and he's part of the Christian contemporary music movement, and that's like Satan music.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
get up, this is when I was like 13, then you get a little older, I read No Compromise by Keith Green. It's like the best book in the world.
Yeah,
Like, I want to be
absolutely.
this dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, just loved the Lord, had a heart, But because he sounded like Billy Joel a little bit
Yeah.
in the 70s, you
Yeah.
know? So I had a real weird thing with music anyway growing up. And then, this music's bad. I mean, anyone who grew up in the 80s, though, we had this weird thing where it was like Kiss means nights and satanic service, and
Yeah.
AC/DC is against Christ, and Devil's Companions, and Cabbage Patch Kids has spirit. And it was just a very weird kind of like every
Everything's
secular
satanic.
thing had
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Satan thing, when in fact, I'm not saying go out and listen to AC/DC for anyone
No,
listening.
yes, you are.
It's condoned. Let it be known, podcast listeners.
But I'm saying at the same time, we can separate too music and chords and beats and things, and not just label them as satanic. Because I really struggled with that. I've said it before. I sat down with Jason Upton back when he was playing for 50 people, and I said, "Hey, is music neutral? Like, is music itself? If I sit down and play Jerry Lee Lewis' Great Balls of Fire on the piano with no words, are those actual chords and rhythms? Are those evil? Because I was taught they were. Look at man, if it's too jumpy or too,
Well,
and it was a really struggle for me. And then going into my early 20s and going, oh no, like the arts and music belong to the Lord. General Simpson, he was a famous preacher in the 1800s. He has a quote, and I paraphrase it, but he basically says, "Does the devil own the chord and the note and the beat? I hope not, because we will go down to hell and plunder it and take it back because it's been created for the Lord." And then realizing everything you do, like Paul says, you do it unto the glory of God, right? So my paradigm, the way I looked at it, really shifted for me in my early 20s. Of music isn't inherently good or evil, but it can be used like anything else.
The context that it's
the context,
given
right?
Yeah.
For good or evil. And I don't even know how we got on that subject already. I'm already going off. But so that was kind of one of the things that the listener had asked too, was like what defines good music a Christian should be listening to? What defines stuff they should stay away from? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there were.
I'm looking at Jason, but either one.
Go ahead. Jump in.
Jason, take that deep theological question and break it down.
Here we go. Here we go. Well, actually, guys, in Psalm 35 too. No, I'm joking. Yeah, I mean, music is math, and I mean, really, there's so many ways.
What I like about drums.
Exactly.
Just numbers.
You listen to the instrumental, just like you just said.
Yeah.
But when you start throwing the lyric on top of it, that's where it gets skewed. But I mean, sometimes I want to just say music is music, instead of categorizing secular, Christian, world music,
right?
Like it I don't know, gets into some gray areas, because it's just like, okay, so then is a certain type of music, I don't know, it only comes out of Western Europe, so we can only call it X. But it's like, okay, so let's stop categorizing certain things. But then again, when you throw the lyric on top, well,
I think that's the big difference.
A little difficult.
I think worship and praise really has to do more with the music, to where secular music has to do really with the lyric.
Yeah.
Not that praise and worship, believe me, you read some of those old hymns and some of these worship songs we have now. I mean, the words are absolutely beautiful, and of course they elicit a response and emotion. But I sometimes feel the lyric for secular music is really what's important there. I don't know.
And especially the music that's coming out now on the top 40s. If we read some of those lyrics and read some of the titles, I mean, my gosh, it's crazy. Some of those songs, especially the one that's number one right now. Yeah. I can't believe it's on the airwaves whatsoever. But
are you talking about WAP?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredibly just disgusting.
Yeah, it's a measuring stick for our culture, man.
Oh man, it really is. I mean, it's really sad.
I think it's interesting too. So I have 20 to 16 in my house as far as kids right now, and so
you have 20 kids?
No. I just had a minor heart attack when you said that. I think I almost passed out. 20 years old to 16-year-old. Let me clarify. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You're in the thick of the culture.
We believe, until the quiver's full.
How many quivers do you have?
So, never mind.
Are you reformed?
Can we edit that? That's right.
He's reformed.
Just keep the Lord's will.
There we go.
We'll go until the Lord says no. No, I was shocked. All three of them again. Okay, all right. So, but I got this age span because obviously they have an understanding of what's going on in the world as far as music and things like that. Friends, culture, all that kind of stuff. They're in the mix, and so. What I find really interesting, because I would agree with everything you guys said, is that music alone is everybody who's producing that music, whether they recognize or not, that gifting comes from the Lord. You know what I mean? God gives them that gifting. Yep. Now they can use that gifting for other purposes and things, but so there's that context with it, and so at the very base of it, like creating that music, really it's a gift of the Lord to even be able to do that. and then context takes it too far. And what's interesting to me is that I think I'm on the same page as you. Is it's the lyric. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that my kids listen to, sometimes I'm hearing it and I'm like, we have those conversations like, man, it's like so depressing. That's what I think. For the genre that they like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's so depressing and so like poor me and everything's horrible
lethargic
and all this. And it just then it gets into their heads and now they're looking at their lives going, yeah, my life is horrible too. And I'm like, what about your life is horrible? You know?
Right.
And so it really does that lyric, I think, is the separation that then influences how you think, because you can't dwell on that. It would be the same thing we would say about the Word of God. You dwell on the Word of God, it's going to produce itself in your life. You dwell on these other things, that's what's going to produce it. Is that your mentality, your thinking, and so I think that's where we get in trouble with it.
And music is absolutely can be used as a weapon, both for good and bad. I mean, you look at the Israelites; that's who they put up front when they were going into battle, man. The praise and worshipers. And then I have this weird thing where I go, the one being and the divine council of all the angels and of God himself, the one being that thought he could challenge God was the one that was made up of beautiful music.
Right.
Yeah.
So it gives you can just see how powerful of a weapon that can be used. It can produce a pride. It can produce a depression.
Yeah.
It can, produce all these different emotional responses, and which then can turn into physical acts. And it's such a powerful thing that, when we sit here and joke about, like we were joking about AC/DC or praise and worship music, like it needs to be taken seriously. I'm not saying live in some form of legalism, but it is a powerful weapon that does need to be handled correctly.
Yes. Right.
Just like you're saying, between 16 and 20, those are prime years too. I mean, I got mine that are, going to be 11, 9, and 6. And it's like, I just try to pump as much praise and worship into, some of the Trolls soundtrack comes through and some of the Frozen stuff comes through. And we monitor that and watch that. But the ultimate goal, I feel, for music is to bring glory to God, just like anything else in my life. I don't think music is any different. My job, my relationships, when I eat, drink, whatever you do it all into the glory of God, the New Testament says. So I think music is that same thing, but I also think music needs to be handled very cautiously because I think it is a little more potent than the food I'm eating and doing that under the glory of God versus music.
Yeah.
And you are so right with, gosh, sometimes I'll just pop into like my Apple or I think I have music on Amazon Unlimited or Spotify, one of those. And I'll just go, what's on the top 40 just to check in. And I can't listen to it from, I'm also old. So, you just, you're like, where's my stuff, from the 80s and 90s. But it's just horrible music. Yeah. I mean, just lyrically, and it's depressing. And you go, oh my gosh, if I was a kid that my brain's forming, I'm 13, 14, 15, now neuroscientists say our brains don't even fully form until 27. And I'm just pumping this into my mind. I can understand why things like depression and suicide and all these things are at an all-time high right now, because they're very influential. Yeah. And I think we can see how much music can be used as a weapon because it's so used by people who want to influence culture. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can literally influence an entire culture by a song. Yeah. I mean, it's not just the last 5, 10, 20 years. I mean, you go back to the Vietnam, no war, all peace. I mean, they used music for their movement. Yeah. So it's something.
Well, I mean, you think about, songs that are played in arenas. Songs that are played, I don't know. I mean, even just at shows where people are just like either moshing.
Right, yeah.
Like there's a certain kind of force that comes behind some of those songs, and some of, and I mean, there are Christian bands that actually do have moshing. And stuff.
Right.
It's like,
oh my gosh,
it's in the Holy Ghost though. It's anointed.
Right.
He sent me a link to who was it? Was that called Luther's Hammer?
Oh yeah,
a Christian
man, Luther's
punk
Hammer.
Rock screamo.
They were reformed.
Yeah, and he sends it to me, and I'm like, and I listen to the first 10 seconds. I can't do that. I can do a lot of genres. I mean, I go from country to rap to classical. I can do a lot of genres. I can't do screamo. I can't do the. I just can't do it. Melodically, it just hurts my ears.
August Burns Red, and there's a ton of them out there.
And I was kind of iffy on rap, and then I got into like Shai Linne and Timothy Brindle, and I'm getting straight preached.
Yeah, right.
And my wife's still not fully on board. She's like, I don't really understand Christian rap. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm, it's kind of in that gospel theme too, to where I listen to a lot of gospel because I like to worship and praise. And I also like to get a sermon. Like you listen to some really good gospel singers, they got the choir going in the background and they're straight preaching to me. And I kind of like that too. And that's kind of how I feel about some of that Christian rap as well. Like I said, wife not fully on board with it, but
it takes a while. Stick with it.
Well, it's great for the treadmill. You know what I mean? When I can listen to a song that gets you pumped up, I'm running, and I don't have to worry about any of the nastiness and unholiness and all that of secular rap. But instead, I'm getting taught about the hyperstatic union. I mean, Shai Linne will hypostatic. Excuse me.
There you go.
Did I say hyper last time too?
Yeah, you said hyper last time too. I was listening. I was like, hypo. Great.
Come on, man. Jeez. This is going to affect our viewership.
All 12 people will write in.
There's 12 now? I thought it was 7. Okay. Cool.
It's going to jump considerably after this.
Sorry. By 4.
Or it might be over. It might be over.
Family. We have an episode coming out next week with the Cross Politic guys.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
That we pre-recorded, and I told a joke on there, and it fell so flat. we had 3 guys over there, 2 guys over here. They had called in. I say a joke, and it's just complete silence.
Man.
I left it in, though. I left it in. I was like, we got to leave that in.
You got to leave it.
I looked at Jason. He's in studio. Didn't even laugh. He was like,
I was looking at my phone. I was looking at my phone at some notes or something to say next, and like Greg said something, and it was totally quiet. I was like,
what just happened?
I'm looking at
oh, I'm sorry. The joke was so bad. The silence jerked you out of whatever you were. Took you out of your.
Hey, the only recovery from moments like that is just to go, whelp.
Yeah.
You gotta whelp it. If you whelp it, you're good. Whelp.
Yeah.
Anyways,
if I was paying attention,
see you later.
Yeah.
Like, killer boots, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's very important. So what has your experience has been with worship music in general? Like, I don't know. What do you like personally? What are you drawn to and attracted to? Because I find when you lead, it's very different than what your private. Well, not very different, but can be very different than what your private time kind of worship is. Like, what's the dichotomy there?
So a lot of times, I listen to all kinds of worship music, like personally.
Okay.
So it is drastically different, but here's the reason why. I'm going to get off philosophical on you.
Please
do it.
So the reason why it's different is because for me, I approach what I'm going to sing corporately. I kind of try to filter it through some things. So by nature, I like all these songs that are like using like flowery terms and trees and rivers and you know what I mean. I think it's cool. I like the nature. I like, how some of the stuff is very maybe intimate terminology with the Lord, and I think it's cool. But I also recognize that when I get up on the weekends to lead worship, that I got for our community, there's a lot of blue collar men sitting in those seats, and so I try to filter like, are they going to say those? Are they going to feel comfortable singing those words out? Because there's already a hurdle trying to get people to enter into worship, on those sides of things. And so when I choose to do things corporately, I mean, obviously I look at theologically, I don't want to do anything that's off or or whatever. But I also filter it through that. Like, is the guy that's on the line at Jeep during the week going to walk in and actually want to say these words,
Sure.
And there's a fine line there sometimes, because I do think that I want to respect that, but at the same time, so much of our relationship with the Lord, there is an intimacy there that you have to step into as well that has to go a little deeper. And so for me...
That's hard to do, though, too, as a worship leader, because you kind of like to do the stuff that you connect with.
Exactly.
And you got to sacrifice that to then say, is that going to be right for corporate worship, though, right?
Yeah, there are songs that I do corporately that I'm like, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to do this song again. I didn't never like it, but sometimes I do watch songs that really take off, because now worship has a whole new breakthrough on radio. You know what I mean? There's a popularity to it. So I do watch songs that everybody starts doing. And at times I will grab those because it's an easy, I guess it's an easy draw for people because they hear it on the radio. They know it. They're familiar with it when they walk in and stuff like that, But But it is funny. So I like you mentioned Jason Upton. Like I love Jason Upton, man. I don't know what he's doing half the time or where he's at, but it's amazing. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, I'll go with you. I had one song I used to listen to, and he's like, I whistle in the wind, and then he just whistles for like 15 minutes, and I'm like, this is amazing.
But it's anointed.
Yeah, I'm like, no clue what's happening, but I love it, you know.
Yeah.
And so, so I like that. I kind of like style wise, I kind of do kind of like some of that like folky style music stuff, you know. But I don't know how to quite play that out on the weekend so much. So, like, I don't know.
I've been into
banjo.
I do like the fact that there's kind of a popularity coming back of older hymns, and they're kind of reworking them.
I agree.
Because I love that, because some of the words are so powerful. And those, I've been into Shane and Shane.
Oh yeah,
guys,
they did those new albums with all the psalms.
Oh,
and
they just did the psalms and stuff, and you're like,
it's
man, these words, and then but at the same time, sometimes just because something is like older, we can kind of like put it on a pedestal and go, oh, it's better.
Nostalgic.
And it's like, you got to realize that those songs were just old pub songs. They took the tunes of like old pub songs.
Right.
And then put words to it. And the Puritans were like, I can't believe these young reformers and these young Protestants singing these secular songs. You know, like Amazing Grace was not a cool hip song. It was kind of frowned upon because they're taking the tune from a secular, bar song and then putting word. And so I've kind of relaxed on that a little bit, because I used to be, even up till 5-6 years ago, I was like, it has to be these songs, this words has to glorify God. And then you're like, yeah, but at the same time, like that's what hymns were 200 years ago. Were these they were the top 40 of today's.
Yeah,
you know.
What's really interesting to me too is that, you know, so like this, I'm getting older. Like I'm in my 40s now, right? So I'm almost gone. But
jeez,
way
to bring the podcast down, dude.
On our way there.
I'm
sorry. I didn't mean to bring my own issues in. I'm sorry.
Almost dead.
Well, go ahead. Let's talk about it.
So, anyways, so what's interesting to me though is what I've noticed is new music that's coming out in worship is it's not all my favorite. And
Sure.
And someone at first I was like, oh, this is weird, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then it started dawning on me like, wait a second, maybe it's generationally, you know, like, because so for me, when I first started leading worship, I connected with worship music that was going on then. But there was something to say. I don't know if you remember Daryl Evans. Do you remember Daryl Evans?
I know the name.
Sounds
Remind
familiar.
me.
So like Trade My Sorrows.
Oh, yeah.
My God Reigns is another one he did. You know, so he did Your Love is Extravagant. I don't even remember these. So like he comes out, and that was right when I first started playing the guitar and singing. And it was just so good. And so like acoustic rock, guitar driven. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, do you remember Ron Canoli? Do you remember these names? Ron Canoli? Oh, he was like big band and like horns. He'd be like, hit it in his gospel. You know,
awesome.
it's like,
oh, really?
Oh, heck yeah, man. What's
Google
his name?
it. Ron Canoli. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. So
Definitely gonna check that out.
So that was kind of, you know, Hosanna Praise. It was like big and polished, and then Daryl Evan comes out, and it's just like him with a really raw, raspy voice and acoustic guitar. And I'm like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, not everybody loved that. You know what I'm saying? And so, but I thought it was amazing. And then it was like, I don't know, I kind of had some discernment going, like, I think that's where I'm at right now, where I have a genre that I love and lean to. And there's a new form of genre, so to speak, coming out. And so I'm challenged.
What's the kids listen to?
No, it's it, man. That's it. Honestly, I'm challenged by that.
Those kids and their rock and roll.
Those kids are wrecking our worship.
We're wrecking our, It is very cultural, though, and generational.
It's very interesting, you know.
Because you're kind of shaped by that. Like I said, music can, you know, shape a culture. And I think you grow up, well, I mean, that's just, look, I hear a song from the early to mid 90s and I'm instantly taken back to my high school kind of formative, you know what I mean, days.
Amy Grant.
Oh.
That's all. Twyla Paris and Amy Grant was all we listened to, you know.
Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith, we'd be crying in here.
That's true.
Ace of Base.
Yeah.
Friends are friends forever.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You know, that was like a skate night classic for us. Roller skating around, and friends are friends forever. But no, it's very generational. I mean, it's with everything else. I mean, even when I was working for a Fortune 500 company, we literally got sent to training to understand the different generations.
Yeah.
Just because in work they respond differently, and I think in music it's the same way. I always look at new worship music and I go, and really, it's like the the instruments involved really don't bother me. I want to make sure that it's theologically and doctrinally sound, and it's bringing glory to God.
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of people my I don't know, it bothers me when they're like, oh, I didn't get a lot out of worship. I didn't get a lot out of the sermon. And it's like, well, yeah, it's not, we're not there for you.
Not for you.
I'm there to glorify God.
Bothers me too.
Right.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah. I mean, and it's like, anytime you're putting your duty and your sanctification and your worship on the pastor or the worship pastor, it's like, that's never going to end well, because that's not their job. Their job is to usher in and lead. And then, our job is to glorify and bless God. The Lord. And the byproduct of that is I get extremely blessed from that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't go there looking to be blessed.
Right.
I look to bless. Right. And because I do that, if you ever go into a church or a small group, or even if you're sitting around with your buddies and you're worshiping the Lord, and you come with the heart of, I want to bless and honor his name, I don't think I've ever walked away from that not feeling blessed and honored myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
I went through that for a little while, the me gospel, and where I was just always wanting the blessing, for a minute. Yeah. And I realized, wow, this is so wrong. I think the Holy Spirit just tapped my heart, just a little prick, Yeah. It was like,
wait, is that what he called you?
Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, pretty much. Hey,
we got dad jokes.
There you go.
Yes, he did.
He speaks to everybody, in a very personal way.
But he knows you best, Jason.
Man, there was a moment where I really dipped my toe into the NAR, New Apostolic Reformation stuff. And it was all about my breakthrough, what I could get. It was, you go into prosperity preaching with that. You go into, anyway, on down the line. But whenever you're just praising God, it just feels so much better, where it's just like, I'm just singing a song for you. It doesn't matter how it sounds, because I'm not the best singer.
Sure.
So, it's like, man, this is all just about Christ. Yeah. I love that,
Did you hear the new worship song that Bethel just came out during their grave soaking?
Is this a joke?
Yeah. This is what they play. It's X-Files, dude. It's X-Files. Just laugh. It's a bad joke.
Dude.
Yes.
You got the buttons, man.
He's got.
I want to push buttons. I didn't know there was buttons.
Oh, we got all kinds of buttons
here.
here.
That was amazing.
No, but you are right about that.
Oh yeah, man. The me gospel. You got to stay away from that.
It's just tough, because it's like, the Lord does want to bless you, and he does love you, and he does take care of you. And you read Isaiah, and then you listen to Jesus, and he goes, dude, that sparrow has to rely on God every single day for his meal, and he takes care of it. How much more does he love you? Yeah. So anytime you start talking about that, we're not saying that God doesn't love you or doesn't want good things for you. And we are adopted into his family as sons and daughters. But at the same time, I think we just have to prioritize, because it is very easy to go from God first to me first. It can flip real fast. Sometimes it's within minutes for me. Yeah. Like, I just sit down halfway through the day and I go, what am I doing? Today has been all about me, when in fact it has to be all about God. Right. And I think worship is the same way.
Yeah.
I heard, it was a leadership teaching on like kind of church organization, but the idea transfers, and the teaching was is that there's problems to solve, and then there's tensions to manage. And it just talked about, sometimes you're not going to fix that, but you have to manage it through life. And I think this is one of those, because there is something about coming to church and going, oh man, I need this, right? Sure. Like that's legit and real and great. That's why we go to church, because we do need the fellowship with the encouragement, all those things. But I think at some point, to manage that tension, that it has to transition from, I need to get something, to then realizing like, all right, if in order for me to get something, then I'm going to have to give something. Normally it's my agenda, my desire.
Oh yeah.
And it's that opening up that then to go like, all right, so, because the I need this usually is like a punch list that we have for God. Usually that's what's kind of on that. But we have to get away from that and realize that it's just God that we need. And then the punch list will take care of itself in a sense,
Right.
But that's a hard thing to do. If you don't get past that, then you just come in and you go, well, that didn't quite do it for me.
Right.
I must need more, or
it
they weren't
turns into
anointed, or they would,
and it goes into the workspace gospel. It goes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and I wasn't saying that you don't come to church and need things either. Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
because after a while, and this the whole point of sanctification is you want to be in the presence of God, and you understand that that there are good things in the presence of God. I have a mother that will just, she'll say something and go, well, got to go in my closet for a little bit and talk to God about it. And I need that 20 minutes or that half hour today. And I go, man, I want to get to that point too, to where it's like that communion with God. You get used to it, and you want more of it. When God and I don't want to sound like he can fix all your problems, but he can. Like not necessarily the way you think, right?
Yeah,
that like
that's
you said,
the
like
key.
releasing your agenda. Because I've been taught, God has taught me a few times when I've come to him with, hey, I need this, this, and that. And he goes, well, the reason you're asking for it or the way you want it done is not my will.
Yep.
Right.
Like we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
But you got to release that agenda and, and then we can do it my way. So, worship and coming to church, I think is just what you said is like, just how even we're taught to pray, like the very first thing, like not your will be done or my will be done, but your will be done.
yours, yeah.
I feel like when we approach praise and worship like that, I think it can be very beneficial, and it kind of pushes that punch list, as you called it, to the side.
Deny yourself and
Yeah.
pick up
Yeah.
your cross. Yeah.
I think, I think that sometimes we think the answer is God doing something, when really the answer always is God. Really, it stops there,
Right.
and then if He does something like "Your will be done on earth as in," but not my own, or like Jesus, I don't want to do this, but let this cup pass from me, but Your will be done. Those moments of that, almost like wrestling with what's going on in your life. It's one of those things where like you go, all right, I just want God. And then God, how you see fit to handle the other things is up to you, and I'll accept that. That's a very hard place to be. Like, I wish I was there all the time, but I am not. There's times where, like as the worship leader, there's times where I'm up there and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know what I mean? The whatever life has presented in that week or whatnot, and it's in those moments where you just got to go like, all right, I really got to believe that God is enough, and if this circumstance doesn't change, that doesn't mean that God was not good in that moment or is not faithful to me or present. It's that life is unfortunately broken and we live through these things, but thank God He's there with me as I walk through it. At least I've got Him going through it. And that goes to like what you're saying, that prosperity where, nothing bad should happen to us. Everything should be perfect, all these things. Right. And
prosperity, health, wealth, gospel.
Yeah.
But
you're
then
you're sorely surprised.
Your eschatology is the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
It contradicts.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
But hey, that's a post-mill guy talking. So,
so like if you're basically saying, if you're like kind of a health and wealth and
if
everything
you're like,
good, but
oh
then
man,
you're
I'm
kinda
supposed to have everything in this life.
But you're like a pre-tribber kind of.
Yeah, but then you're a pre-trib guy. It's like, well, wait, that's
I don't know that. That's
anyway.
Probably one of the easiest ones for me to debunk is the health and wealth. It's like, why would Christ promise you the one thing that He said would ruin your soul? I mean, really, like let's pump the brakes here. Yes, he wants you to, He loves you and He wants the best for you. But I think John Piper said it so well. He's like in Job 40, I think it was, or 38, like you afflicted me so that I would know your precepts. Like David would sing this in the Psalms as well too. And Piper said it so beautifully. He said, basically, I don't ever want to pray myself out of a valley before I've basically glorified Him through a valley. Like there's something in there that He's doing with us in those times, like in our weakness, He's made strong, and I've said it before. I've learned now, it took me a long time to learn this, but when I'm in a valley, the first thing I pray is, Lord, get me out of this valley. It's like, Lord, how can I be changed and how can you be glorified in this?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that really helps me through that. When it goes back to Him and go, okay, I'm in this situation, or I'm in this valley or whatever, or I'm in this sadness or depression or whatever it is, like, don't take me out of it. Like, I feel like sometimes we jump right to that, Lord, get me out of it.
Yeah. And
it's like, oh no, through this process is where His glory is going to be made known, and my weakness is shown and His strength is shown.
Yep.
And praise and worship has definitely helped me through that. I mean, there's been times where it's like, I don't even know what to pray or what to do. I just get on that piano, clear out the room, and I just got to worship, and whatever flows out. And that's very therapeutic. And I feel like, for me, it's a real thing to be in His presence in worship and in praise for me. Even more so, like I can pray and meditate, but man, when I worship him in song, even if I'm not by a piano, sometimes you just catch me singing. My 11-year-old caught me singing. There's a song by it's by Shane and Shane, and they do it live, and it's "He Is Worthy," and it's a call and response.
Oh yeah. I know something. Yeah.
Do we know that it is right? And there's a part halfway through that song where he's like, "He is," and they start building up. He is, and I'm parked over here and I'm just belting it out, right? And I had this thought, like, man, someone's gonna come out here, like my neighbor. My windows are up, but I'm singing it because I love that song. I see a knock and my daughter's looking at me like,
Everything okay,
"Gosh,
Dad?
Dad, is everything okay?"
You all right?
But and I
Do I
felt
need to get Mom?
I felt embarrassed. Just spoke to me. He's like, "You want to know what? She's going to see you singing that.
Absolutely.
Like, at least she's seeing that,
Right.
Because heaven forbid, I know some kids that see their parents doing some way worse stuff than that.
Listening to DC talk.
How about that?
Well, listen, I did show them a cover of Thunderstruck where it's all these guys doing banjo. And
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen this video? They're amazing. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember
they're
the
I don't
band.
have it. No.
The guy is doing a that's my banjo on a
Sounds
banjo,
just like it.
and they've got the horn and the.
I thought you pushed a button and we're playing
Yeah.
something.
And it was funny because then my wife gives me the eyebrow. There's no bad lyrics in or anything, but musically, it's just phenomenal that they took it. And I love when you take a song that shouldn't be played with certain instruments and then do
Right,
it well. And then,
Have you seen the guy on bagpipes?
I think he's on the bagpipe.
No,
it's
that's
accordion.
two different. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
I haven't
I
seen
feel
on
like I live under a rock. Oh man, I haven't seen that. No, I'm just.
We'll send you the links later, Rick.
I'm too busy praying.
Yeah.
So I just
I'm too busy praying to listen
Praying.
to DC talk, you heathens.
my Bible.
dang it. Oh,
read my Bible
Lord,
and
I'm
stuff.
sorry.
We call that a Jesus juke.
Jesus juke. He did, he did juke us there.
Yeah.
But having that conversation. Well, what does that mean, Thunderstruck? What is that, Dad? And it's like, oh, great. But we've taken a very open approach.
Yeah.
With raising kids too, just with music, with culture. Like anyone who has kids, and you do, we all do here. They pick up a lot.
Oh yeah.
Don't treat them like they're dumb because they know what's going on. They're listening. They're sponges, right? So we've Samantha and I have taken this approach of like, well, what do you want to talk about? Like. They know it all.
Yeah.
They're not going to be shocked by the culture. They're going to have a foundation in Christ and a presupposition of like the Bible is true and God has designed people a certain way and all these things. So when they are confronted with that, when they get a little bit older, they're going to go, oh no, that's not tracking because the Bible says this and we have a worldview of that. And I kind of didn't grow up that way. It was very kind of keep them away from that. And I think it was a little bit of the culture too. I'm not
do
blaming
too.
my parents.
No, that was an
it was
era,
just,
for
Right.
sure.
It was like an era of like this Jerry Falwell kind of like,
Let's not talk about
let's
it.
not talk about it. Everything's bad. Shelter your kids. And then I go, I'm homeschooled for most of my life. I go to high school my first year, junior year, and it's like, whoa,
What's
what
going on?
A whole new world. It's like, you know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
walking around like, what the heck is all this stuff? If kids talk to teachers that way and they listen to this music and they're doing that, after school, and it's like, and I wasn't exposed to anyone, and it was culture shock.
Yeah.
It really was. It was very easy for me to slip into the things that I shouldn't have been into. And I know that sounds counterintuitive.
No, I totally get it. Yeah.
But like I see it a lot with like PK kids,
Yep.
like pastor kids too, like very sheltered. And then you get in the world, and you're like, whoa. And I think that's why Jesus said, look, be in the world, but just not of it. Like you got to know what's going on in the culture, like
How else are you going to transform it?
how transform it, preach against it, like correct in love, like all those things. You got to know what's going on. We just can't put our head in the sand or go buy 100 acres in the UP and start a commune.
That's why you guys got to be post
can we?
What is it? Get into
The last 3
Dominionism.
weeks, he's been into this post mill stuff. Look, I don't.
It's been over
I'm
a year
undecided.
that I've been post mill. All right.
I've been undecided on the whole thing. I've always said the end times eschatology for me is like secondary.
Yep.
Until it starts affecting the way that you live out your gospel life.
Look, man, I reserve the right to change my eschatology either
Every week.
in midair.
It's fine.
Or if Joe Biden becomes president. Hey!
Hey.
All right.
All right. I think there's so much in the Bible about how to live now. And
Yeah.
then we're
Yeah.
fighting about how to live then.
Then.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
what does it matter, man?
You know what my end times eschatology was for the longest time? I'm like, every single generation since Stephen the martyr said Christ is coming back tomorrow.
Exactly.
True.
And they
Yeah,
lived that way.
exactly.
It's
Didn't
true,
matter
yeah.
if it was 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or
Well,
1 week.
Greg,
they lived as if
We're
tomorrow
li-
would not happen.
We're living in the end times right now. I don't know if you knew that or not. COVID is the end times. World War I, World War II, I mean, all these,
This is
Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
This is the one.
Well, that's
You
what
know.
I mean. Every generation has had their end times, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, I think at the end, I don't know how we got an end times out of praise and
Sorry.
worship.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
We
episode.
barely talked about music, honestly. It's cool, though. It's totally
See,
good.
we told you.
I'm digging it. It's good.
Yeah, man, we try to go
But yeah, every
everywhere.
generation has that, right?
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know if I totally track with like the world's got to get a lot worse before Christ can return, because I'm like, man, sin has always been here. Like 2,000 years ago, Rome was taking Christians, slicing their backs off, sewing bearskin on them, and making them fight lions. Like
Yeah.
we've sacrificed babies at the altar. Now we do it in the womb. It's like the spirit of murder and sin and all those things have always been here. I think we look at it differently. It's for a while there it was glorified. Then we moved into this weird thing where it was like we do it in secret, but we as a culture we don't really talk about it publicly. Now we're moving back into that.
It's just
Hey,
open.
it's all open, and I don't know if one is worse than the other. But at the same time, I think sin, since the fall has always been here. So we've been, we've been taking innocent blood, all the 6 abominations. We've been taking innocent blood, stealing,
All of it.
all that stuff since
So
we
you're
fell.
Amil.
Oh my gosh,
You know what's interesting?
nothing. I don't
is,
know.
Somebody told me about a book, and I listened to the audio. I can't claim I read it, but it was called Killing
Oh,
Jesus.
you're one of those too. I said I read a book, and my wife corrected me and said you listened to
Listen,
it.
yeah.
It's
I'm
the
not
same,
allowed to
isn't it?
say.
Easier.
I'm not allowed to
It's
say.
easier.
read
Devouring
it.
the content, you know.
Right.
I do both. So, but it was called Killing Jesus.
Who's that by?
Pat O'Reilly.
I've heard
I
this.
believe.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
honestly, it's fascinating because he's
Bill O'Reilly.
Bill O'Reilly. I
Yeah,
said Pat. Yeah, Bill
yeah.
O'Reilly. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Change that in the notes.
Yeah.
And so, but what was fascinating about it to me was that, so, from what I understand, he has a Catholic background. So he's a faith background, a religious background, but he doesn't write the book as like he's trying to prove that Jesus is the Son of God or anything like that. He's basically taking like a worldview context of what was going on when Jesus was on the earth.
Yeah.
And so the fascinating thing about it is that the world was trashed. Like the things that were happening, historically, what was going on. And it was a real eye opener to what you're saying. Like I'm listening to this and what the leaders are doing and, all this stuff. And then Jesus is right in the middle of it. And the interesting thing is that Jesus is not necessarily specifically addressing the things that are going on. Like he is addressing sin and your heart and where it's at and those types of things. But where we would want Jesus to organize a rally against that leader and march the street. You know what I'm saying? Like this
Right.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And Jesus didn't do any of that stuff.
Did none of it.
None of it. And
Right.
then in the same time is then we're like, well, the world's never been this bad. That's just because you don't know the history because
Yeah.
it was really bad then. You
really
know what I
bad.
mean? It was horrible, And so to your
He came
point,
up in an occupied Israel.
exactly.
I mean, in the Romans were just horrible,
Yes.
wretched people.
It- no, it
the
was
things
true.
they did
It
was just
yeah.
insane.
And perverted and with children and what I mean.
Yeah.
The details don't need to be hashed out here.
Right.
But, I mean, it's just insane, And I look at that and that's what I came away with it. Was not to say that the idea of the end times and when Jesus is coming back is not important, but the speculation of when it is, and then that we should be so focused on when that happens, what's it going to look like? Actually, Jesus' focus was today,
Right.
live like this so
Absolutely.
that you're a witness to those around you.
And change your little part of the kingdom.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
By interactions
Influence where
as you
are.
go through the marketplace and everything.
Amen.
That's kind of how I've always felt about it. Like I've got people and friends that really get into that. Like
Yeah.
they just want to sit down. They can talk 4, 6, 8 hours. Is it, oh my gosh, and Jesus coming back, and the government's doing this, and that's going to help the red lamb of this and that, and the CERN, and up in the sky, and the data collection.
Peace in the Middle East, didn't you, this past week, right?
Right.
I just get so confused by some of that talk.
Not only confused, but I'm like, it just feels secondary to me. Like I'm supposed to live every day as if Christ is returning.
Yeah. Right.
Like that's what the Bible says. Like literally live every day like that. And I think if you live like that, that does affect your decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, I had something happen and I got totally convicted of it. And I don't know if someone's life was on the line because of it. I have a very good friend who's we were going to visit him, and his dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. He went to the hospital. We're on the way up to his place. He calls me, hey, we can't do the week-long thing we're going to do with the kids, go to the beach, all that. My dad just got out of the hospital. He's got 2 weeks to live, right? I hang up the phone, not an audible voice, but the Spirit impressed on me, you need to go talk to him.
Yeah.
He's a biker dude, nicest guy in the world. Don't know if he knows the Lord or not. You need to go talk to him. Just have a heart-to-heart with him.
Yeah.
I call my buddy back. I say, hey, can I come see your dad in the next few days, within the next week? He goes, yeah, anytime's good. I mean, he's just at home. We're basically prepping him for hospice, this, and that, and the other. So in my mind, I thought, man, should I go over there today? And I went, no, we're all loaded up. We're going to South Haven. We got a week up there. It's the vacation. I'll do it when I get back.
Yeah.
The next day, he calls me, goes, man, we thought he had 2 weeks. He passed away.
Oh, wow.
Now, my heart broke.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up north, and I'm standing off to the side, and I'm crying because I don't know. I went, did I just put a vacation before a man's soul? Now, he could have been saved. I don't know. I'm not saying he wasn't. Yeah. All I know is that the Lord said, you go talk to him. And I went, yeah, but I got stuff to do, Lord.
Yeah.
I got family, and I could justify it. Look, I got to spend time with my family, be a good dad, be a good leader, be a good father, all those things, good husband. But I just had this immense feeling like you were told to do something and you made a decision to put that off and not live for. No one's promised tomorrow, Greg. Yeah. You're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it was just this heaviness on my heart. And I went, oh my gosh, I can never do that again. And that's so when we start talking about like, well, these numbers and this tribe and that, and Jesus is going to come in this year, it's like, dude, I'm just trying to get through today and obey the Lord.
It's funny because before you told that story, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I am working on, he must increase, I must decrease.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm working on today. I don't know what's happening with the rapture, man. I'm just, but that's the decrease of us to go like, this is more important, and trying to figure that stuff out.
And live out the Great Commission. All authority in heaven and on earth. Yeah.
Like that's hard enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just doing that,
that's right.
let alone then we're going to.
Seriously.
Man. Debate when.
2027, right? Is that what we're going with?
Is that what you're going with? You heard it here first on Dead Men Walking. Jason
I don't
Hamlin.
know. Did Timothy LaHaye say that? I don't know.
I have a bucket list I'm trying to get done. Right. So true story. All right. Sacrilegious probably, but true story.
We definitely want to hear it.
Get it.
When I was in Bible college for that, you remember that one semester I talked about? I was in Bible college. So that was right at the same time they were re-releasing all the Star Wars in the theater, like digitally remastered. Literally, serious prayer. I said, God, would you mind just waiting to come back until all the Star Wars are re-released? Real prayer. I wanted to see Han Solo before the rapture, man.
Serious?
Oh, I'm shamed. I don't know if I've ever publicly said that.
And he heard the desire of your heart. He did
that.
And he answered it.
And he answered it.
Amen.
He answered it.
Oh, that's funny. Do you know I've never
He is
seen
faithful.
I've never seen any of the Star Wars movies all the way through. Like maybe like 20 minutes of one, 20 minutes of another.
This is very disheartening.
Yeah. No, I have seen every episode.
I have
seen every episode of Star Trek.
I'm walking out.
This will make it even worse. I don't really watch or know anything about Star Wars either, really.
Really?
Yeah, I was.
See, I thought I was the only one my age.
I saw,
but I wasn't allowed to.
Guys, things were going so good.
I saw the one. Well, what's the guy that looks like a lizard?
What are you talking about?
Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar, yeah. So that was
he
the one that I saw.
He literally brings up the worst character in the Star Wars.
Well, how do you know? No, so
I read the news. Good Lord.
So have you ever heard of VidAngel?
Yeah. Yeah, that's where they
you can
like Pure Flix or whatever. You can take stuff out of it.
Content out.
Yeah.
They actually have you can like for each movie you can edit. You can get rid of language, scenes, whatever. It cuts them out. It's pretty amazing. And so
it's awesome.
It really is. So you pay. Little commercial for VidAngel. They're the ones who actually, if
not sponsored by us. Let's get that
very, very soon.
The Chosen. Have you seen this? The new Chosen about Jesus.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
everybody's talking.
personally,
everybody.
I
I watched it and wept. I was
Yeah.
like,
Really?
yeah, it was beautiful, man.
I sent him like $15.
Great.
Bucks out of me, dude. It's
Serious.
good.
So they're the ones who produce this. Anyways, so you basically pay a monthly fee for them now, but you connect all your Amazon, Netflix, everything to it. Then you can watch your shows through them and edit out content. It's brilliant.
So you have to edit it, or
You
they
just
edit it?
you just select what you want. I don't want language, and it
Yeah.
bleeps it out.
Oh, are
So
you
like when my
serious?
kid wants to watch, a superhero movie,
Back
and it's
to the
like, I don't want
Future.
those 4 cuss words and that weird
That's it.
thing in there, but I'm okay with, I'm okay
So
with
it
some
edits
beat.
it like
Yeah,
right,
It
Yeah.
just bleeps it out.
like
Yeah.
right now. I click on it.
Yeah.
We watch it.
Yep.
And
And it'll get rid of scenes. It'll chop scenes out. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
that's
It was-
pretty cool.
But anyway, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to finish the thought.
Yeah.
They actually had for Star Wars, for the new Star Wars, they had a Jar Jar Binks edit.
So you can take Jar Jar
You
Binks
can
out?
select it, so every Jar Jar Binks was.
I always
that's
thought he was
hilarious.
funny. Like when I was
The one racist,
I don't know.
the one racist character they have in Star Wars
He
is
was
the one
racist?
you are drawn
He's the
to.
one you love.
Was he
Well, no,
racist?
he wasn't. It was a little.
See, I don't even.
It was just off color. It just
I don't
wasn't. Didn't
even
make sense.
know.
It wasn't even a good character, right?
I would use the word risque.
Yeah.
Risque.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Did not
Jeez.
know. Great.
So-
Thanks, Jar Jar.
That's a fun fact. They have a Jar Jar Binks setting on
Edit it right out, man.
And,
There you go.
Angel.
Vid
Vid
Angel.
Angel.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Cool
it's
stuff.
so sad because there's some movies that are so. I mean, they're pretty darn good.
They're
they have a
good,
good
and then they
moral,
have a
and then
one
they,
little-
and they just got to put some
Yeah.
stuff in there, and you're like, really?
Right.
Yeah.
Like my
Right.
10-year-old doesn't need to hear that, you
Some
know?
of that stuff too. It's like they just drop a word just to boost that rating to the next level. It seems like
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
for viewership, and you're
Oh
like,
no, they absolutely
it
do.
doesn't even make sense that that's
Yeah.
in there. You know what I mean? It's like so
Right.
random.
Well, it's
and-
because like a 15, 17, 18-year-old kid, I'm not going to a PG movie, but PG-13 is a
Better
little more
jump in.
risky. It feels,
Yeah.
Well,
you
it's
know what I mean?
changed a lot too, though, because now PG should be
What's that?
PG-13.
it's a little different. now,
Yeah,
it's
no,
a
it
lot
is.
different now.
Although,
Yeah.
have you? So I guess I don't know how old you are, but
39.
okay, so
Yeah.
being
Me
in
too.
my 40s, there are movies that I watched as a kid that I wanted to enjoy with my kids.
Yes.
And then
now
I
you
put them in.
can't.
I'm like,
You're like,
"Dear
what?"
God,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm like repenting to God and my wife.
yeah.
I
No,
didn't know.
like I don't remember that being in there.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, man. So it's.
I remember I watched
back in the day.
We didn't watch. I mean, we had 2 hours of TV a week. It was like public television, and very limited on the movies. But then somehow it slipped in there that we were house setting for another couple, and we watched Back to the Future when I was like 9 or 10, right? So growing up, I was like, yeah, that's like a fun family. And then you watch it, and you're like, dude, there's some really weird
yeah,
stuff
there's a
in Back
couple
to the
parts.
Future. I
Yes.
don't want my kids
Especially
watching
when they get
this.
to the prom.
Yeah, like him and his mom. He's
Or
gonna.
him and his mom, and like what's happening there, and you're like, what the?
Jeez.
As a kid, though, I never processed that.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
is good, I guess. But as an
Right.
adult, I'm like, this is
No.
heavy,
Little
man.
Sigmund
No,
Freud there.
we had a movie slip through, and they said, and once again, it goes back to them my kids being exposed, and they said ass, and my 10-year-old looks at me, she goes, "What does that word mean?" I thought it meant donkey,
Yeah.
right? Because she's very literal and looked it
Yeah.
up. She said, absolutely, that's was the original intent. When you use it towards someone like that, you're being derogatory towards them. You're calling them as dumb as a donkey, or and you're basically degrading them. We're all made in the image of God. God says we shouldn't degrade another person that way. So in society, we view that as a bad word, and we view it that way, and we don't use it. And she went, "Oh, okay."
All right.
And then we're on to the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was like a teachable moment. She heard the word, and I feel like when you're a kid, if you hide stuff from them,
Yes.
it's like, well,
It's
now you want, it's
Right.
intriguing. I want to know more about it. Ooh, I can't use that.
It's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I caught which you got to be careful of that, because then around other kids, like my kids were using anatomically correct words for parts of their body. They knew Santa wasn't real. They know, Easter Bunny isn't real, but you got to be careful when they're around other kids,
Yeah.
even in church. Cause then it's like, my middle child, she was out there like, Santa isn't real.
Yeah.
Like, I was like
My daughter
Dwight on
did
The
the same
Office,
thing.
like when he gets a fax from himself from the future, I'm like, dude, slapping it out of her hand, like no,
Yeah.
because it's families have traditions, and not judging, but we just decided,
Yeah.
We got a call from preschool from my daughter, and the request was either to have her stop talking about Santa not being real, or keep her home during Christmas. Yeah, because she'd be like,
oh my gosh,
she's very
my-
literal too.
She's my favorite person.
Awesome.
Like, that's a lie. He's
She's
not
about
real.
to be a preacher.
Kids are like, oh, Crying. Sorry about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, let's we're gonna start finishing up here.
We're probably way over. You're late for your gig, I bet.
About 58 minutes. Man, it just flew by.
Yeah, man.
Got any other parting words there, Jason or Rick, before we finish up?
Isn't it weird how we park in a driveway but drive on a parkway?
Yeah.
I actually had something serious to say. Now I don't want to say it.
Well, I've always wondered, why do clocks run clockwise?
Why do clocks clock?
I could sit here all day. I had a set of books when I was little, and it was all those questions. It was all those questions.
Oh, well, so you got them.
This is the kind of nerd I was as a little kid. I'm reading like Paradox and like one of them was called "When Did Wild Poodles Roam the Earth?" Like when did we just have poodles? Obviously, are here. Where are they? Were they roaming the earth? Like where'd they come from?
The Ark.
And it was all those weird.
I do have one for you now that you mentioned animals.
Okay.
This is a pet peeve, though. You might get in trouble for having me on for this. Wouldn't you agree that the push to fight for homeless animals would actually be solved if we put all the animals out of the house back in the woods? Because that's where they came from. It's just a thought. I'm just saying. Isn't that their original home?
Yeah.
Hey.
Aren't they homeless in our buildings?
Oh my gosh.
That's true.
What? Yeah,
That's deep.
That's
That's deep, guys.
you just threw me there. I haven't been speechless that often on our podcast, but yeah, just put them back in nature. Then
right.
Now they're
It
home.
works.
What is a homeless?
Welcome home.
Is that a real thing? Is like people like rescuing?
Oh,
you mean like
you've seen those
Have you not
commercials
seen
and you
them and they're
cry.
crying? Yeah.
Oh, Sarah
Yeah.
McLachlan.
I mean,
Like you could literally,
She can go pound sand.
yeah, you could watch
Remember me.
Oh, that
That's
one
it.
too. Yeah.
Is
yeah,
that?
you
is
could
that-
watch
yeah.
sponsor this kid.
Wasn't that our senior song?
It was. Yeah, we went to school together.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it's
we
more.
graduated.
You could watch a commercial about sponsoring a child, and it's heart wrenching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same format for sponsoring animals.
For
Like
the
it's
animal.
exactly the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
thing. You're like,
Yeah, and in this culture,
Yeah.
people will probably sponsor the animal first.
Animal
way
first.
faster.
Yeah,
Honestly,
exactly.
You laugh, but it's like, man, it's so sad.
it's true.
It
We've
is.
so degraded the,
Oh, yeah.
this image, like even with the whole race thing and this, it's like, dude, we're all made in the image of God.
Yeah.
Like,
X 1726, right?
yeah, I don't know what that is, but
Came
sure.
from one seed. We all came from one seed. Every
Yeah.
nation.
there you
Yeah.
go. It's good.
Well, that's a good ending.
That's
It has
good.
nothing to do with worship
thought we
music,
were-
With scripture.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it.
Thank you, guys.
but well, Rick, thanks for coming by. And
We're gonna have to have part 2 to actually talk about music.
we got a little music in there.
We could do it again.
Hey, but seriously,
Heck yeah.
anytime you want to come back and just hang out and talk,
Yeah, man.
we're
Heck
good with
yeah.
it. This is all we do on the
Yeah.
podcast, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, make sure you like
Subscribe.
and follow and subscribe on Instagram.
Smash that like button.
Don't say smash. I hate that. Everyone on YouTube now, smash this and ding that. If you say smash in your YouTube video, I actually delete. I
you
stop
actually-
subscribing to you. I do the opposite.
You have to point to nothing as well.
Yeah.
The button right
Hit
there.
the button and
The
smash
lever right
this
there.
and ding
The
that.
link upstairs.
It's up here.
Yeah, jeez. But Rick, thanks for coming by. Jason,
Absolutely.
as always,
Yeah.
thanks for being here
It was
too.
great to be
Thanks
here.
for having me.
Guys, you can follow us at Dead Men Walking
much.
Podcast on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all those places.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. As always, God bless.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that the call up? Is that the final?
Every